Hey there and welcome to another episode of Seenu, where it seems like I'm back on a schedule, even though I probably just jinxed it by saying that. In any case, in today's episode, we're going to be working on the island that's by the airport. In fact, we're going to be completing the work on that island so we can move on to the many projects that are still left to be done. And particularly, I want to be focusing on that gap that you see on the screen, between the main airport terminals and that sort of little neighborhood that's sitting right next to the bridge. We're going to be adding some air traffic control towers. We're going to be extending the ramp of the airport a bit, and just adding some industrial warehouses and things like that. I really don't want to spoil too much, even though the title of the and the thumbnail of the video probably say a little bit of what we're going to be doing in just a couple of minutes. But the main thing for this one, or the thing that I was planning on addressing first and foremost, is the prop limit issue. So, a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned the fact that I was running into this limit. The actual number of props that you're allowed to put down is 65,000. I said 650,000. That's a lot. But I mean, if it's any point of comparison, right now I'm sitting on 120,000 trees plopped. The reason is trees are also capped at 65,000, by the way, but I do have the unlimited trees mod. That it's a pretty old mod. It's somewhat stable right now. It didn't used to be, by the way, and that's kind of why I'm doubting getting the the prop unlimited mod or whatever it's called. Many of you pointed out that I should get it, and apparently it's not compatible with Move It. But I might end up getting it because there's still a lot of work to do. So far, I still think I'm going to wait a little bit on that one. There's still a couple things that I can do. For example, part of the work that I did during this episode is clean up the fences that were hidden underneath the trees. I sort of mentioned that in previous episodes, but actually that worked great because I managed to clear up like 1,000 props or something like that. And this episode, I had to put a lot of props, otherwise it wouldn't be a fun detail project. I mean, right now, literally, I'm putting down so many decals and planes and cones that you're going to see me put in just a couple of minutes. By the way, we have a whole area with hangars now for Fly Seenu. There's a little tail kind of coming out. In case you didn't know, those planes were made by Schoolhausen. And actually, I don't know if they're in the workshop. There might be. I don't know. I need to check that. If they are, I'm going to include the link in the description in case you want to get them. If not, I'll make sure that he posts them. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna check this right now because I happen to have the internet here with me. And just really quickly, I'm in the Steam workshop right now. You can't see it. Fly Seenu. It seems like they're not. Okay, no worries. Let me know in the comments. Let's do this. Let me know in the comments if you really want those assets, and I'll ask Jay, aka B Schoolhausen. It's just way easier to say Jay, to put them up. But like I was saying, I'm just adding a ton of props here because otherwise this area wouldn't look very nice. And I'm trying to be very frugal with the amount of props that I'm putting down. By the way, I mean you can see that I'm only putting the very bare minimum amount of decals, because decals also behave like props or count as props. So I think there's still room for deleting more things that we don't need, and also that will ideally improve the frame rate a little bit. I don't think it will do a lot, but everything helps, And after all that is done, and if I still have a lot of work to do, I'll probably get that mod that unlimits the number of props, and I'll deal with the limitations in regards to Move It. But yeah, that's sort of the state of things at the current time of development. I was trying to set up some roads here because well, I wanted to have some movements. Oh, by the way, this is me clearing up the props. I did that whole monologue about props. I forgot I recorded this section where I did that process. So the yellow number that you see on the screen, it says user props. That's literally the current number of props that I'm using. And you can clearly see that some of these props that I'm deleting, all these fences that are underneath the trees, like there's no impact, visual impact at least. I was able to clear up a whole bunch of them, and that is just the island that we finished in the previous episode. There's still so many fences that could be removed. So yeah, but you know, this little corners of the airport, like I couldn't just leave them empty. I need to add a little bit of detail, and the easiest way at that point was just to add just regular props, you know, having those luggage carts and the tow arm or whatever it's called that pulls planes from, you know, from the gate. Now, the one thing that I've been kind of doing, and you're probably going to see these throughout the episode, is I'm trying to use, since I have the unlimited trees mod, I'm trying to create more fences. This was suggested by several viewers. I guess you guys are users of the game too, but several viewers in previous episodes, people telling me, oh, you need to use like maybe fences for, you know, for decorating certain things. So that's kind of what I'm doing. You're going to see me do that a little bit more heavily in just a couple of minutes in some of the builds that we're going to be taking care of. Now, okay, I'm going to change subjects here for a bit because I'm getting sick of talking about props, even though I'm putting a ton of props right now. So this massive antenna here, I know this is going to be a little bit controversial. I wasn't entirely sure if this is accurate. Not accurate in the sense that does this exist in the island, because it doesn't. I just always loved this asset from, I think it's part of Natural Disasters DLC, and this is one of the reasons why I bought it when it came out. In fact, I think I was starting Seenu when it came out. In any case, that massive tower antenna, I think it's called the mast or something like that, it's a little bit too close to the airport. Obviously it's not in the path of, you know, planes landing. It's off to the side, like even outside of the airport property. However, oh wow, I just realized that those cables are moving. They look totally static during the build. I guess you can only see that during the you know, the sped up time lapse. Interesting. Yeah, so what I was saying is this massive tower could be, you know, not very safe, you know, being just right next to an airport. So, you know, I'm not like 100%. I detailed the whole area. You know, I spent a lot of time detailing the whole area. You can see that in just a couple of minutes. But if it's too like unrealistic, you can let me know in the comments what you think about it. But I'd be willing to move it to a different island. I'm definitely going to have it in one of the other islands. Probably the one that where I put down all the fences that I haven't like really added any vegetation yet. But I kind of like where it is right now. I think it's a nice addition. I don't think it's like totally unsafe, but if you tell me, oh no, like towers need to be like, I don't know, like 20 kilometers away from any airport, it's like, okay, well, I'll consider changing it. But other than that, I'll probably keep it there. Again, it's not in the path of planes, so it's not like incredibly unrealistic, but I do see why some people might be, you know, triggered by that. And talking about fences again, this is kind of what I meant. You see me just add that whole row of bushes there, those thick, chubby bushes that are great for fencing. It did save me quite a bit of assets, even though what I'm building here, by the way, is the first cemetery of the whole atoll. Actually, I don't know if it's the only one. It might well be. It's obviously going to be featuring another mosque right in the middle, which this building, who was kindly crafted by the one and only King Leno. For some reason, it seems to attract a lot of tourists. I don't know if it's because it's adjacent to the airport, but I mean, I put down this building in other parts of this island, or actually in a different island, and it seems to draw so many tourists all the time. There's going to be so much traffic. You're going to see at the end in the cinematics how many people are actually using this, because it's kind of crazy. But you know, I was trying to make it not super symmetrical and perfect, trying to have some plots of land with no paths where the gravestones would be laid down. This cemetery actually exists. It's literally right next to the airport. It's just, I think they only share a fence with the runway. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this. and I think it came out pretty nice. I wanted to sort of keep this area of the graves just a little bit semi-fenced out. Like maybe the politicians of the island live there, or some like VIP of some kind, so they get their or just a cleric, or not cleric but clerical employee. I don't know what like people from the church will be called. That is whatever. Forget I said anything about that. But just wanted to make that little area special, just a little bit more landscape than the rest. And again, this I think that the biggest challenge, talking about props again, I feel like this is going to be prop talk all day, but these like plots of concrete, if you don't like add anything to them, it really just doesn't look great. It's just a concrete slab. It looks terrible. So I'm trying to my best to be super cheap with the number of assets I'm using here, so that I still get some detail out of them, but also don't go crazy with the number of decals. In general, I try not to put a crazy amount of decals. You probably know that by now. I don't like the whole like ultra grunge look that you sometimes see on like screenshots in Reddit from people just laying down a million different decals. You know what? The main reason why I don't like that is because sometimes there's a lot of sea fighting because all these decals are on the same plane, so they just flicker a whole bunch. It's not great, So as you can see here, we have another big patch of concrete. So I'm keeping it simple. I'll literally put down 4 decals there, 1 oil stain, and then just the regular stains. A whole bunch of trucks, not that many, less than 10, and then a few lights, which unfortunately also count as props to the prop limit. And I'm trying to also take advantage of having lights built into the roads, which is something that I often turn off using network extensions. Because I like adding my own lights. Sometimes the lights that are automatically generated by the game are in the wrong locations. So I tend to like remove everything with network extensions and then just add my own. But I'm actually using a combination, talking about the roads, by the way, I'm using a combination of the vanilla national roads and the network extension national roads. And it's an interesting mix because first of all, they're different shades of color. And I think I can change that with the roads color changer mod, but I haven't really looked at it. I kind of like the difference in colors, to be honest, because it's nice because they gradient between one another. So if you have a segment of the network extensions, which is slightly darker, when the next segment over is vanilla, you just have like a nice gradient from dark to light that just adds a little bit of detail. My biggest pet peeve right now with roads in general is that, so Roads United, which is Roads United Core Plus, which is the mod that I'm using to skin some of these roads. And I say some of these roads because it's an old mod that hasn't been updated recently. So all these vanilla roads are inexisting. They're not covered by that mod. That's why I'm able to have both the national road from vanilla, which looks one way, and the network extensions version. My biggest pet peeve is that they look too clean. I mean, look at this pavement right now on the screen. It's just perfect. Obviously, I can add decals to make it a little bit more damage, which I think it makes sense. Just having patches of concrete, not concrete, but pavement that just doesn't look great, I think adds quite a bit of detail to it. Obviously, it makes way more sense when the actual mod, in this case, Roads Unite, is doing all that work for you, so you don't need to put as many decals to make that look that way. But that's not the case anymore. I don't think that mod's gonna get updated anymore. In fact, if I ever do, whatever episodes or projects I do in the future, I may not use it anymore. I don't know. I'll probably make that decision at that point, but it's not very reliable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's certainly something to consider. I'm sure some other mod will come out in the future that will allow us to really change that. And I guess you can sort of do that with the road editor. Just imagine someone creating like 5 different segments of the national road that just have like a different combination of decals in certain ways. So you can have a block that has like cracks and potholes and things like that, and then the next one, it's a little bit cleaner but just has like a rough wear and tear on it. I don't know, just food for thought for all those asset creators out there who wants to maybe take a swing at this problem. But for the time being, I'm somewhat happy with how things look. In fact, one last thing before I change subjects, that you can see the difference between dark and light roads right there on the screen. In fact, the network extension versions of those roads, it's a little bit glitchy now for some reason. It's I don't know what happened, but it's like the textures are like offset, so Roads United is kind of fighting with the new way roads work. I don't know how to really explain it, but I think that's sort of what's happening. I did try another project just to test things out that, and open up the network extensions. No, sorry, not the network extensions, but the Roads United with the North American theme. And that one seems to work fine. So I don't know exactly, maybe the European theme that I'm using is kind of bugged. I'm not sure. Half the time when this game gives you those weird behaviors, like I have no idea what to do about them. I may seem like like a quote unquote expert, but half the time it's just like trial and error and just dedicating enough time to the thing so I can properly solve it. Now, switching gears for a moment, I want to talk about this lovely building we're working on, which is sort of the highlight of the episode. I'm building a small budget resort, and by budget I mean it's not like a 1-star hotel or anything like that, but it is, somewhat of a hotel. Maybe it was, in my mind, it was one of the first ones in the island. This doesn't exist, by the way, in real life. This is just me, coming up with things using my own creativity. Yeah, this is like a hotel that's been like somewhat refurbished for the influx of new tourists. And they have a fancy pool, but the buildings still look a little bit dated. All these are vanilla buildings, by the way. I've been using them quite a bit with various degrees of luck. For the most part, good luck. But, I wanted to keep this resort pretty simple and frugal and, not super fancy, mostly like vegetation-based decoration. We have the soccer field. It's one of the tiny ones. I wish it was like a little bit smaller, but it's, it's big enough that it would fit. A couple of tennis courts for good measure. And so here, for example, you can see how the entrance of the hotel, it's kind of like rusty, but they're like putting down some fancy columns and some plants, as you'll see me do in just a moment, just to make it a little bit more acceptable for tourists. Obviously, things being closer to the ocean get rust much more quickly than other places or inland. But for the most part, I was pretty happy with this design. I'm also using those pools that you see on the side. Well, you actually can't see them on the side right now. You can kind of see them to the left of the screen right now. But we're gonna decorate those in just a moment. Those are from King Leno as well. I think he's working on a Las Vegas themed city, and he created that asset for one of the casinos. And it just fit perfectly, so I'm using them. I'm using so many of these assets pretty much all over the place. So yeah, make sure to check out his Steam Workshop, because there's some really good stuff in there. Obviously, when it comes to landscaping here, it's, since it's a budget hotel, I'm trying to keep things pretty simple for the most part. Not a huge amount of manicured landscapes, just a little bit. I did wanted to sort of cover the area by the just the surrounding concrete block of this hotel with this like red tile work. I don't know what you properly call it, but obviously I'm using quite a bit of decals for that. Unfortunately, every decal that I was putting down was like, oh man, this is just gonna make it way harder to detail anything else I do after this. But I thought it was worth it. And, I also had this gap here right next to the entrance of the hotel. And I figured, hey, let's build a maze. I think I've did this before, like in the Cedar Valley days. It's not a particularly complicated maze. I already posted a screenshot of this to Twitter a couple days ago. By the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, you should totally follow me on Twitter because I post screenshots of the things I'm working on way ahead of videos coming out. It's kind of my blog. So if you ever want to see what I'm up to, if for whatever reason I don't post for a long period of time, I'll probably say why on Twitter. That's it. Enough of my shameless self-promotion. We're continuing adding a couple benches throughout this wooden deck path that I need to use more often because it actually looks kind of nice. Even the intersections of this these pathways have like a nice. You can kind of see it if I don't move the camera too much. They have like a gentle slope for like, I don't know, handicapped people or something like that. It's actually like. Basically has a ton of detail. I only used it once, I think, in this project for the one of the other retreats that we did on the other side of this island. I think it was like episode 20 something. You can look it up in the whole playlist for this series. But as the music plays in the background, it's time to put an end to this episode. I would like you to just enjoy the scenery of Seenu. And if you do enjoy it as much as I did, please consider giving this video a like. That's very much appreciated. And also, if you're new to the channel and haven't already, there's a big red subscribe button that you can click. That way you're notified, one of my videos comes out. If you missed one though, there's a link in the description with a full playlist. But that pretty much does it for this one. I would like to thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one.